We'll go ahead and begin this meeting of the City of Kokomo Board of Zoning Appeals. I would invite everyone to, first of all, make sure your cell phones are silent, and then please stand and join us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance and have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Excuse me, our first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020 meeting.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes of the March 3rd, 2020 meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, before we hear our cases this evening, just wanted to point out we do have a 5 voting member board. At this point this evening, we have 4 voting members present. It takes 3 votes for a case to pass. So I always like to point out to petitioners when we don't have a full board, if you would prefer to ask our board to continue your case until all 5 of us are here, that's your prerogative. So when we call your case, if that's the route you want to go, just let us know that. So our first case to be heard this evening is case P07V20.
Yes, the petition of Jack Reed requested a variance of 2 foot in height to section 6.16 AC in an R3 zone at 2030 Alton Drive.
Do I have a motion on this case?
I move that we approve case P07-V-2.0. Adopt the findings of the petitioner or those of the board, make those findings part of the record.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Have we had any ex parte communication regarding this case, anyone?
No, sir.
No? Okay, thank you. Mr. Sheeline, if you want to tell us what it is?
Not Mr.
Oh, you
Sheehan,
already
the
did.
petitioner. I've
You
already done
read
that.
it. Yeah, so if we can have the petitioner come, it's been so long since we've had a meeting. Have the petitioner come forward, or whoever's representing this case. If you'll come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, and then tell the board what it is you're wanting to do.
Okay, my name is Jack Reed, and I'm at 2030 Alton Drive here in Kokomo. My wife and I, in fact, we just put it in. We put a pool in our backyard, and my backyard is probably from the back of the house to my property line is probably 60, 65 feet, maybe. Plenty of room for the pool, but I would guess it has anywhere from a 2.5 to a 3 foot slope, which even without the pool, the 6 foot privacy fence really doesn't stop much viewing for me. I mean, you can look at all layers of everybody's house. It's just basically a 3.5 foot fence at that time, especially if you're up in the house. You can just see straight across the street and everything like that. So we wanted to put a pool in. We wanted just to make it a little more private, and so I'm asking for a variance of 2 feet addition to my fence, height-wise.
Okay. So it's an in-ground pool?
It's put in ground, yeah.
Okay.
Now with that slope, it's kind of a recessed. Front end's in ground, the back half's out at least 2.5 feet, maybe 3.
Okay.
The 2 feet you're wanting to add, is it just across the back of the property, or?
Actually, I'd like to have it all the way around because the 2 houses behind me, but the 2 houses beside me, when they've built on room additions as far as like a sun parlor or a screened-in patio and everything, and it's up based on just how they build it coming out of the back of the house. So I'm really kind of low compared to everybody else. And so I went around and asked what they thought. Is that too high? But I think I would just like to see if I could have 8 feet all the way around.
And you're going to tie into both corners of the house so there'll be no frontage
So how it sits is, yeah, on the back side of the house. Property line goes out 10 feet one way and about 6 feet that way, and the current fence goes straight out and then right down the property line in the back. So it's on the back corner of the house on both back corners. And it's going to stay in the current spot that it's in now.
But
You
there'll
have
be,
any-
excuse me,
You have an existing fence now?
I do.
How tall is it?
6.
6 foot?
Been there probably about 15 years.
So you just want to add 2 feet to it?
Just want to add 2 feet.
Mike, did you have another question?
I guess I didn't know. If I'm standing on the street and look at your house, am I going to see an 8-foot fence is my question?
Towards
On
the
both
back,
sides?
towards the back of the property. It won't,
Not just what faces the street the part of the fence that faces the street.
they will see that.
It'll be 8 foot, but it comes to the back of the house.
Back the house, off of the back of the house, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think, looking at your house facing east, correct?
Front of my house
If I'm on
faces
the-
what?
If I'm on the street, looking at your house, I'm facing east? Is that correct?
Correct.
So on the south side of your house, the fence pretty much is flush with the house, right?
No,
As
what
it heads,
it jumps out to the property line, which I would assume is about 10 feet to the south. Is my
Okay.
actual property line. Then it juts down between my neighbor and I, the
Okay.
property line.
and then on the north side of the house, it juts out some as
It
well?
juts out, it's probably 4, maybe 8 feet. It's a little
Okay.
smaller than the other one. Gates on both sides to
Okay,
get into the backyard. And then same thing on that side, it juts down, yeah,
okay,
down the property line.
okay. Yeah, because the way your street is,
Yeah,
well, I don't want to say shaped, anyway, the way your street runs, I went by twice, two different times, just to kind of check at different angles. and
perfect, yep.
different times of day, not that that really mattered that much. And you know, I had to look to really pay attention to the fact there was a fence back there. And I don't know, Mike, if you made it by or not, but that's,
Yes, I go by every house, every meeting, every time.
I thought you did. I didn't know on this lockdown if you were stuck. Oh, you're, okay. All right,
So if you guys drove by there, on the south side, I got a really tall pole up in the air, and that's not the 8 feet, if you just drove by it recently. I had to take that fence down to get the pool in. And I knowing I'm gonna have to get a bobcat in there to get all that dirt out, so I didn't want to make it permanent. We had to pull that pole and everything. I didn't want to make it permanent, so I just kind of stuck a taller one up just so I can get everything tied into it so something doesn't fall down or anybody can get in or anything. But that'll come back down to height. I think that's a 10-foot pole, but it's very temporary.
okay. Okay, so we have asked some questions. At this point, are there other questions from the board?
No.
If not, Mr. Reed, you have a copy there of your findings of fact?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have you read those into the record.
The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. I'm wanting to extend the height of my current privacy fence from 6 foot to 8 foot. The current fence has been there several years. The new addition will stand in its current position. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. I will make sure it's a strong, well-built wood fence from top to bottom, and I'll maintain it as I do now. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. The situation shall not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or a restriction of economic gain. And with that is because of the slope in my yard, 2.5-foot drop, my fence is not really 6 foot of privacy, and we are putting a pool in the summer, or we already have.
Okay. All right, thank you. And we'll just have you hang tight for a minute. Mr. Sheline's going to read the staff findings, and after we hear the staff findings, you know, board members may have other questions for you, so, yeah, you can go ahead and have a seat if you want.
Okay, staff findings for case PO 7-V-20. The approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The planned fence will be located in the rear, to the rear of the house, enclosed in petitioner's backyard. It will not encroach on any easements or neighboring property lines. It will not be injurious to the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting this variance will not have a negative impact on safety for the surrounding area, but may be considered visually unappealing. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation should not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. If the variance is not granted, the petitioner's fence will be required to be 6 foot tall or less. As the City of Kokomo zoning ordinance allows fences to be up to 6 foot tall in rear and side yards. The staff leaves it to the petitioner to convince the board of a practical difficulty.
All right, thank you. Having heard the petitioner's findings of facts as well as the staff, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I still have one. This is going to be a new fence, or are you just going to add on to the existing fence?
Well, at this time, what I like to do, the fence now, the new fence, I'll have boards that go across. They'll be on the outside, the 2x4s, the cross pieces, and they'll be upright, so they won't sag or nothing like that. I'm going to have one on the ground, 2 foot, 4.5, 7.5, something like that. So the 6 foot pieces that are on the fence now, on my side, I will raise them up to the 8 foot level, which means the bottom of that will hit that 2 foot cross beam. And then any boards that I have left, I will cut them 2 feet and they will fill in that bottom gap. Now, that seam is only noticeable on my side, not on my neighbor's side, because I have that backboard there. On my side, I will put any additional boards that I have across there, kind of make it look like a piece of trim or something like that. So from the neighbors, they won't know that it's not an 8 foot panel. I've told them how it's going to be, but if you look at it, it won't look. It'll look like an 8 foot piece.
So you're going to take your existing fence and basically raise it up and fill in the bottom?
With pieces, yes. I have replaced that fence probably a couple years ago, all that, because at the time when I moved in there, they kind of had a shadow box design in the shape of my yard. You just on that weird corner, there was no solid wall anywhere. It was the shadow box now had a gap so big as you look through it. So on my side of the fence, I went through and moved everything down so they were close. Obviously, I didn't have enough boards on there at the time, so I put in certain sections brand new fencing. So any bad boards that I had I trashed them and put new ones in their place. Didn't stain the fence, so now that it's been a year later, it's all the same color. Secure boards.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Is there anyone from the audience wishing to be heard regarding this case? If you'd state your name and address for the record.
My name's Randy Schick. I own the property due east of his property. And the fence does look pretty ratty at this point in time and I would say it's been there quite some time. I mean, it's got moss all over it, and I don't really have a problem with the fence if it's put back in good repair, level, square, plumb, just common sense things. But I am interested in the easement. I don't know if there is an easement that runs across the back of that property or not, because I've had several trees taken out myself. I don't know at what side they would gain entrance to, taking out any more trees or doing any repair. What was the other thing I had? Senior moment here. My daughter's going to be moving in. She's buying the house from me. I did one for my son several years ago, and now I'm doing one for her. So she'll be out in the backyard all the time doing flowers, and she can't afford a pool, but she'll be outside. You know, she'll want some privacy also. So his solution may help both parties involved, as long as it's put in good repair and maintained that way. I don't think we really have a problem. I would like a time limit. You know, I don't want this to go on 2 years or however long, 6 months, 8 months, January 1 of next year. Pick a date and time and a goal for him to shoot for, and something that we can rely on also.
Well, one thing this board doesn't do, there are a lot of things we don't do, but one thing we don't do is we're not given the responsibility or the power to say, here's how long you have to get it done. But if you have concerns, if the board passes this and you have concerns with the progress, you definitely can touch base with the city, with the plan commission, or they can direct you to the right person at that point who can get on and say, let's get this done.
We don't issue permits for fences, so we don't have a time limit because, but obviously, if Mr. Reed's wanting to get this done for his pool, obviously, the sooner he gets it done, that helps his liability as well. So my assumption would be that he would get this done in a timely fashion, correct?
Correct.
You need to come to the microphone, sir. Sorry if you're going to speak.
Correct. I hope to get on it instantly.
Okay.
That's a big thing. I am working on other parts around the pool and everything, and kind of a weird, the property lines and everything, and I intend to probably start on his section first. He's got kind of a square thing, and I'll tear it down in one day. I'll set posts maybe that night or the next day, and then the next day, hopefully 3 to 4 days, boards are up. I can't afford an open fence for very long based on the liability and everything.
Right.
So it's got to be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. But yeah, so it's going to be done right away.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard regarding this case? Mr. Besser?
Perhaps you touched it and I missed it. How old, my whole problem, I understand you got a practical difficulty, and I understand you need the extra 2 foot of fence. I have a problem with that. My problem is aesthetically what it's going to look like as far as old wood versus what's been there. And so could you, is this all wooden fence, cedar fence, dog-eared fence? What are you putting up?
It'd be dog ear, picket fence,
Okay.
treated boards with the posts that I'm going to put in and the cross pieces and the dog ear boards are treated, and what I put in will be treated also. We haven't got to the point where we definitely will never paint them. We like to stain them. We just haven't got to that point with other stuff we've been in our house. But when that time comes, then I will. It's a decent looking fence now. I mean, it's somewhat sturdy. From his side there, you will see those old boards that's been in there forever. They're coming down and everything like that. So as far as if I got bad boards, I replace them. They don't do me any good to have boards that are rotten or hanging and flopping in the wind or anything like that. So. I mean, I personally like nice stuff, so I mean, I don't like run down yards, and I try to keep everything in normal, and that goes with the fence. Something I try to maintain, and at least from, like I said, I don't want it to fall down. There for a while, they had some problems with the wind pushing on it, and it was leaning when I first got there. Tore it all down, reconcreted everything, so it's secure now, and it's going to be more secure when I'm done with it now this time.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Schick, before I call for the vote, I know you did mention that you live to the east. Would you mind stepping to the microphone and giving your actual, the home address so she can have that for the record?
My home address is 2870 Red Oak Court, Kokomo. That's Tall Oak subdivision.
Okay.
And the address we're talking about is 219 Lodi Lane.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, if there are no more questions from the board, if no one else from the audience wishing to be heard, we have heard the staff and petitioner's findings of facts. We do have a motion for the approval of case P07V20. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 When opposed? All right, congratulations, it passed. All right, our next item on the agenda is case P02-SE-20.
Yes, petition of Heather Merrill and Michael Trent requesting a special exception for home occupation type 2 in order to operate a dog grooming business at 1311 West Walnut Street.
I have a motion on this case.
I move that we approve case P02-SC-20 and adopt the findings of the petitioner. Those of the board make those findings part of the record, and also that this exception will only be for this petitioner.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Have any board members had any ex parte communication regarding this case?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. If we can have the petitioner come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and just kind of tell us what it is you're wanting to do.
My name's Michael Trent. I live at 1311 West Walnut Street, Kokomo, Indiana. We're wanting to do a small dog grooming business on our enclosed front porch. It's all windows, secure. It's not going to be a quantity type business. It's going to be a quality one-on-one type grooming. I'll be doing all the grooming. She's handling all the Facebook and the scheduling and advertising.
Okay. All right. If you want to go ahead, you have your copy of the findings of fact there?
Yes. Do I read the very top, or can I start at the petitioners?
Yeah, you can start with number or letter A there.
Okay.
Fine.
The proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Dogs will be required to be on a leash when dropping off or picking up. Dogs will be safely crated at all times when they're not being groomed. Shop will be cleaned and disinfected daily. B, the requirements and development standards for the requested use as prescribed by this zoning ordinance will be met. The buildings meet the minimum requirements in front and side setback requirements on this zoning district. I don't even know if this is relevant. I had trouble with this when I did this. Only 3 to 5 dogs will be scheduled per day in such a way that only 2 customers will be at this shop at any one given time, with ample parking with 2 spots in the front of the house on the road and a long driveway next to the house. C, the granting of the exception will not be subvert the general purpose serving by this zoning ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same district and vicinity. From the time dogs arrive, they will be secured in a large 8x24 enclosed front porch. At no time will they be allowed outside until pickup. No part of the grooming process will take place outside, and property, both ours and neighbors, will be safe and secure. D, the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district therein, the spirit and intent of this zoning ordinance, and the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan. A family-run business oriented to local families with dogs, with the focus being on quality, not quantity, with the local customer and the dogs receiving an enjoyable and safe experience with the care of their best friends being our priority.
Okay, thank you. What do you anticipate being the number of days and the hours?
We're generally going to be like 9 to 6. We're shooting for Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturday, 10 to 6. I may be grooming on Sundays. It will be our dogs.
And you're shooting for 3 to 5, you say?
Yeah.
In a day?
Yeah, just depending on.
How long does it take per dog?
Small dogs typically, and I'll take a little bit longer than like Petco and those places do. I'll usually go about 2.5 hours on like a Shih Tzu or Yorkie. And then we get into my specialties are the doodle breeds. They can range anywhere from 3 to 4 hours.
All right, and then do you anticipate any signage or just like, because our city has some pretty strict sign,
Oh, you talking about like the 2x2?
right?
On
Any like sign on the house or?
We
you
were
just-
going to do, our plans were to do, because it's all windows wrapped all the way around, we were going to do a 2x2 decal in one of the windows. And then we were hoping to do like, while we're open, like a cafe sign, just right there at our walkway leading up to the house.
All right, other questions from the board?
I have one question for council. Since he states to be inside at all times, not that he would have the problem, but if there would be dogs outside or if there would, is that covered under this or is there another statute that if he would let 2 or 3 dogs outside at any given, for a long period of time to make a nuisance, does the fact that he says they won't go outside or does that fall under the dog ordinance? Or?
Well, I think we'd have to take a look specifically at the dog ordinance, but if they would be inside, I don't think it would be a violation. The problem is when you run into unsafe dogs or dogs that are off the leash, then you run into more issues.
I don't think he's going to do that. I just want to know if that would happen. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, if I understand right, you say you're going to use an enclosed front porch for this business?
Yes, it's completely enclosed. It's heated and air conditioned, just like the rest of the house. It has a vent. It has a secure door leading into the house, a secure door outside.
Okay, we have the staff findings.
Yeah, staff findings for case PO2-SE-20. The proposal will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed special exception use will not negatively impact the surrounding community. The petitioner has a long driveway to meet parking demands of her customers and will not be building any additions or structures in order to operate. This will help preserve the residential character of the area so as not to disturb the neighbors. All animals will be properly contained in crates during their stay when not being groomed, and owners will be required to keep all dogs on leashes. The requirements and development standards for the requested use as prescribed by this zoning ordinance will be met. The buildings meet the minimum requirements for front and side setback requirements on this zoning district. The petitioner will provide 2 off-street parking spaces in a driveway which exceeds that requirements. The existing structure meets all development standards. The grantings of the exception will not subvert the general purposes served by this zoning ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same district and vicinity. The petitioner requesting the special exception has provided a business plan detailing that the hours of operation will be Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Customers will be seen on an appointment-only basis, but the petitioner will offer walk-in nail trims. The petitioner plans to see between 3 and 5 dogs per day, but will schedule in order to keep traffic at a minimum. The petitioner will not offer overnight stays under any circumstances. As such, the business should not negatively impact the surrounding property owners or the value of their properties and will not harm the residential character of the neighborhood. Please see the attached business plan for further information. Proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district therein, the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance, and the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan. A special exception in order to operate a small self-contained family business would fit in this neighborhood. The City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan states that this area should be utilized for high-density residential uses. A home occupation is consistent with this use.
Okay, thank you. Having heard both the petitioner's findings and the staff findings, any board members have any questions at this point? Anyone in the audience wishing to be heard regarding this case? Nope. Okay. And as you might have caught, but I want to point out, when Mr. Myers made his motion, and it's not uncommon for this board to do this, when someone especially wants a home occupancy business, basically the way he made the motion, if we approve this, is that this exception goes with you guys for this business. So if you,
And the property.
and the property. But if you guys sell that property, I mean, if you guys move or something,
Then we have to reapply.
You have to
and-
reapply.
Yeah,
right.
correct.
And someone can't say, hey, we want to buy, yeah, we'll go ahead and buy the house because we'd love to put our business
Gotcha.
in the front.
Okay.
You know, they would have to come before
Okay.
this board and do the same thing you're doing, so.
Okay, okay.
So, and I'm glad, a lot of times we remind each other halfway through the.
I was a little
case, but-
confused at the time, and now it makes more sense,
So
yeah.
that's what it, yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
it makes more sense.
just to be fair to your neighbors, because they know what you're doing.
Yes.
And sometimes when we give a special exception, without that stipulation, there's a whole list of other businesses that could come in there.
Okay,
So that's to protect
protect our
and-
neighbors, yes.
Yeah. So, okay, if there are no other questions or comments, do you have anything else to add? Okay, we do have a motion for the approval of case P02-SE-20, with the stipulation that it does go with this petitioner at this property for this business. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, there you go, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I do want to say, I'll throw this down there to Mr. Besser, I'm just making sure you know I wasn't challenging you. I will tell you, for those who may not know, Mike, you do more research on each of these cases than I think a lot of the petitioners do, and I will say I appreciate the time and the effort that you give to this board and to each case, so.
Tell my wife that way.
Have her read the minutes,
Okay,
but I do appreciate that, so I don't want you
Thank
to.
you. I didn't
Thank
think
you.
it challenging at all.
I didn't think you did, but just to be sure. So is there anything else to be brought before the board this evening?
Just again to mention that for those of you who may not know, we have completed our move. We are in the old Key Bank building at 224 North Main. We got the entire first floor, so we completed our move about 7 weeks ago. So we're in our new office space, and it's fantastic. We love it over there. So plenty of room and nice, and we have our own bathrooms and everything, just like real offices should have. So it's perfect.
Good. Good. Well,
That's all I have.
all right. Anyone else have anything?
And thank you to John for the face mask.
Yes, thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice.
No, Chuck hadn't got one yet.
Nope. All right. Well, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We're adjourned.